Welcome back, everyone, to FNL. For those of you just joining us, don't be alarmed. Some cyber termites have temporarily kicked us out of the LCS Dome, and we appreciate your understanding as it gets fumigated. Now, we are turning to the new patch, and although our balance patches are designed with all players in mind, 10.15 has a lot of pro-focused nerfs and buffs for every lane. Let's start with things down in the bot lane.
Yeah, Caitlyn. She got buffed, and her buffs are so big we couldn't even fit it on a full screen. She got 2 whole AD and 5 whole movement speed. So these buffs are not insane, but when you think about the relative strength of the bot lane champions in the last few patches, Varus was a good matchup into her. He's gotten nerfed. Ashe has been a good matchup into her. She's gotten nerfed. Ezreal nerfed. Aphelios was even nerfed with his Runons, who was, again, would beat Caitlyn in lane and then obviously outscale. So now Caitlyn's starting to find a bit of a place in the meta where she's able to be that lane dominant and still able to scale. I don't know if we'll see her so soon because some of the prolific Caitlyn players will probably take a bit to pick her back up. But I'm pretty excited to see Aphelios start to leave the bot lane, Varus start to leave the bot lane, because it's going to be a lot more like champion variety in this new patch coming up.
The other thing to note, too, is that Caitlyn has like a 59% win rate in Challenger, like 57 plus in Master. So she's really strong in the bot lane. We'll see if teams start picking her up. Another person that caught my eye was Shen. He got a shield buff. It was 20 flat across all levels, basically. And that's huge because we were already starting to see Shen come back in the meta a little bit. Impact later. We also had the FLICKR game. And that helps your trades so much because you will get so many shields off over the course of the laning phase. Just 20 extra health on them every single time means that's a lot of damage negated. It's definitely not a minor buff, even though it might sound like it to some people. And this will make him even stronger in those melee matchups, which he was already good at punishing. Might not fly to the exact top of the list, but I still think we'll start seeing a lot more Shen as this meta develops.
I totally think we will, especially because he's got that global element to him, which so many teams are picking up, whether it's Pantheons, whether it's Gangplanks, but most importantly, the star of globals, Twisted Fate, has also received a nerf. His pick a card, the W, took a pretty strong hit at the early levels, so an extra 2 seconds. This is not only going to make his laning phase a lot weaker, whether it's spamming mana from the card, or even setting up for ganks, or even being ganked himself, because the cooldown will only start being leveled at level 8. It's a pretty significant nerf, and he's not building any CDR either, so you better watch out for Twisted Fate because now only the best can really pull him off because you got to pull a gold card on that first rotation. Otherwise, you're only hitting 1 stun.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. It's going to be the good TF players are the only ones playing it because, yeah, you could beat TF with Poke or with Assassins, and, yeah, now TF can't spam red cards anymore, so he's not going to be able to outpush these pokers, and he's not going to be able to have stun every time an assassin wants to fight. So these counter picks are going to start coming out if people start playing TF. So I'm excited to see TF slightly move out because I was getting pretty tired of just him being the ban-hammered every game.
Yep. TF out a bit, hoping my boy Shen comes in a bit more. We've talked a lot about the playoff race today, but another race that is approaching its conclusion is the end of the split, right? We're here. We're talking about the Honda MVP. At first, there were a lot of different contenders and possibilities, but it's looking more like a 2-horse race right now between Cloud9's Blabber and then Team Liquid's CoreJJ.
If it's a race, the first one to get a lead has been Blabber because he came out swinging in the beginning of summer. His Olaf games really influenced so much of the meta, whether it was other teams trying to pick him up or even other regions looking at it. Then the Lee Sin was styling all over teams, but he took a tip when Cloud9 started putting him more on the supportive style junglers, whether it's the Setts or the Trundles, and as a result, we really haven't seen him be that dominating jungler that he had at the start, but the early domination was so damn strong that he got so far ahead of the competition that everybody now is just catching up to him.
Tortoise in the hair, Crumbs. You know who the tortoise is? CoreJJ, old man CoreJJ, coming up clutch with Team Liquid. He has been the de facto contributor in their wins. He's so good. And they would not pick a lot of these up without his Bard and his playmaking, picking on Poom and other people, as well as having that Blitzcrank pick. I don't think there's another support in the league who would have gotten to Team Liquid to their current win record. And I think he has solidified a very strong resume to actually pick up his second MVP here on the back half of the split. It's still close between him and Blabber. I don't think it's made up at all, but CoreJJ has definitely inserted himself into that conversation.
Yeah, and you have to think of like MVP is also like most valuable player like for that team. I mean, if CoreJJ is not on Team Liquid, they're already our slowest team in the league. So imagine not having this big playmaker support who's pulling out the Blitz, pulling out the Thresh, and pulling out the Bard, and landing all these skill shots. Like, this team, like, we'd probably still be watching, like, their Week 3 matches right now. Like, it's so insane how fast CoreJJ is able to make their wins go.
That actually makes Mark's tortoise and the hare comment even more relevant.
Well, CoreJJ, he's not the only support player to have picked up an MVP title in the past. He's going against aphromoo right now, who has also picked up the title and has been performing exceedingly well lately.
Yeah, aphromoo having a big comeback split. Remember, he debuted way back in 2013 off a role swap, and it was him and Xpecial kind of battling for the title of best support in NA, and he really grabbed that one in 2015 and 2016, picking up his wins with CLG. Then they go to MSI. He leads them to the greatest international performance from a North American team up until that point. He looks like a complete stud. Goes and ends up splitting away, joins 100 Thieves. That's where he picks up his MVP, leading them to first place in the regular season. And ever since then, it's actually been a bit of a downward slide for him until this split where he's starting to really look like he can potentially recapture some of that form.
We pose this question, can aphromoo re-attain past glory? Probably you worked with him during what's considered one of his peaks. What do you make of his chances?
Yeah, no, he's climbing back up really well, and it's kind of funny because he's a support player who is always really excited about buffing up his teammates, so he actually really enjoys playing Enchanters and just making his AD carry the star, but his role on Dignitas is so important because he has to be the one to make these engages, so he's not really playing the Enchanters that much anymore. He's actually playing these hard engage, these, you know, blitzcranks, these threshes, making sure the plays happen, because without him, their team is, yeah, not finding these fights. So it's kind of like he has to battle with himself a bit. And I bet, yeah, being his coach right now is rough because, you know, you want to make your player happy, but you're also more interested in winning. So you're like, all right, I know you like Enchanters, but we got to win. You're playing Blitz today.
Yeah, and when he's playing Blitz, it's been faring well for Dignitas, but you can't discount their opponents, Team Liquid, who have been making a great case for themselves to be the top team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about CoreJJ being huge. His lane mate is also someone who is benefiting a lot from this. Tactical has exceeded my expectations quite a bit this split. I don't think that they would be tied for first if he was at what I thought he would be playing at. He's way better than that. One of the top 80 carries. We have some power rankings coming out later this weekend. I don't want to spoil where he is on those, but he's pretty high up, and I think he has been incredible both in lane and in team fights.
Yeah, I mean, talking about exceeding expectations, I had Jensen very low on my mid lane totem pole, and I was definitely proven wrong. So far, he's the highest XP difference and gold difference at 10 for any mid laners. I'd go ahead and argue he's our best mid laner right now and our best mid laner in team fights. And not just that, he's not just passively farming and scaling. He's actually making a lot of plays now. So I'm kind of excited to see this transition where he was just this mid laner I always thought was, you know, never going to help his team and just, you know, wants to play team fights. Nah, he's like actually helping his team more. He's actually engaging. He's taking risks using summoners. So I'm really excited to see how far he can go, especially in playoffs, because I think he shows up more in playoffs.
Yeah, you know, those two players look real pretty revolving around their godson, CoreJJ. There'd be nothing without him. Are you kidding me? Bard heals level 1 in mid lane? Come on, Jensen. Don't think he doesn't remember what he did and all the help to tactical. It's all CoreJJ.
And CoreJJ's been throwing those hooks up the mountain to try and bring them to the top. A lot of people looking at Jensen to perform here, but Dignitas are a formidable opponent for game number 1. Let's send things over to Pastry and Ezreal.
Thank you very much, Tigers, and welcome everybody to Week 8 of the LCS. My name is Julian Pastry Timecart, and I'm joined once again by Isaac Ezreal Cummings-Bentley. It is getting hot in here, I feel like, as far as playoffs go. 2 weeks to go, 4 games left for all these teams. Quite possibly a numerous amount of tiebreakers as well, and a whole different playoff format for the summer means that there is a lot on the line as we move very close to the postseason.
And there's a lot on line for pretty much everyone because there are 8 teams that actually go to playoffs. You know, no one is fully eliminated from it or anything like that just yet. You know, everyone still has their shot. TL obviously looking for that #1 spot after they took down Cloud9 last week, making a pretty good case for themselves, sitting at 11-3. Dignitas has been good since swapping things around, or at least has significantly improved, but they had such a bad start with their 0-8 start that they're way behind the curve, right? So they really do need to pick up wins as often as they can. You know, they're 4-2 in their last 6, which is pretty damn good considering they started 0-8. So they're more of a threat, I think, in reality to Team Liquid than they look like on paper. But we'll have to see if they've improved enough to really be able to match up with some of the top teams.
Yeah, and it does feel like Dig, even this iteration, despite being more successful, has been pretty inconsistent as far as performances go. You can go from looking red hot and feeling like you can maybe beat any team in the league to just having a game where really things flounder and you don't do all that much, where it's been the opposite for Team Liquid. They have played their game all year, it feels like, and this is a team that's refining that style to first place. Like you mentioned, currently tied in first with Cloud9 at 11-3. A win here will at least temporarily put them in sole possession of first, but Phase 1 bans are almost done. 3 marksmen on the TL side and a point over on Dig. Ashe, Caitlyn, Graves, Kalista, Lee Sin with 1 more to come.
I actually really like the focus on the Dignitas bot lane. I do think that Johnsun and aphromoo have been the strongest part of this Dignitas team. You know, even during their 0-8 streak, Aphro and Johnsun were actually looking quite good for the team. Caitlyn did just recently get buffs. So they talked about that on the analyst desk. Also, a lot of the other strong laning marksmen got nerfed. So Caitlyn really has risen in priority. Ashe was another strong laner. So they are banning out a lot of those for Johnsun, trying to hold him down and maybe what is going to be more of a farm-style matchup.
Yep, Olaf the last ban there for Dig. So first pick Volibear over on the TL side. Despite some nerfs mostly to his ability to clear the jungle, still popping up in both top lane and jungle, so perfectly good pick there. We'll see what Dig want to select though, because all this focus on marksman, but no one wants to show their hand in bottom lane just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think TL was basically saying they weren't willing to actually first pick the Ashe or the Caitlyn, but they assumed Dignitas would be willing to first round them afterwards. So we'll see if they do want to go that direction. You know, Johnsun has been incredibly flexible as far as the marksmen do go. He's played a lot of different picks, you know, 7 in total throughout this split. His most played by far is the Ashe, but he still has things that are unbanned, such as the Ezreal, the Aphelios, the Varus. He's played Kai'Sa, he's played Kog'Maw. So he does have some options there. As Sett going to get locked in. This can be flexed, obviously, top or jungle. We have seen quite a bit of that. We've even seen it be played mid by Niski. We've seen it played support, but usually as a support, it's only played alongside the Kalista, so I am going to assume that this is probably jungle or top.
Yeah, I think Crumbs and I were talking about this in Academy yesterday. We think Sett has been played in every role in Pro. At least somewhere around the world, he has made his way into all 5 roles. So certainly a flexible champion, but as you mentioned, in those positions you said right now. Ezreal is going to go back. This is a champion we've seen all split long, but Tactical going to fall back to a very comfortable pick for him. And Jensen at LeBlanc, always a treat to get.
Yeah, pretty aggressive pick here for Jensen. Into the Azir, we'll see if he can punish it. Jensen has been playing, you know, a lot more of the scalers himself. His most played throughout this split has been the Azir by quite a lot. TF was his next most played, which did take some significant nerfs. You know, notably, Fenix's Azir is his best champion, has been his best champion for really a long time, people will say. So we'll see how well he can perform on that. And Kai'Sa as the option for Johnsun, which I do like. I do tend to think that a lot of the Ezreal lanes end up being fairly defensive. And if the Ezreal does want to play it defensively, and you can pick something that outscales Ezreal as far as the team fighting goes later on, that can be a really effective option there.
Have to agree. Ezreal in phase 2 of bans now. Dignitas going to go ahead and take off Tahm Kench, wanting to keep the real defensive Ezreal lane out of the bottom lane.
Yeah, going to be able to take that away, and it's also something that allows TL to play more towards side lanes if they're worried about Tahm Kench coming in, you know, disrupting some plan that they may have later on. This could be signifying that, you know, Dardoch is actually going to take the set and they want to pick something for Viper that allows him to go more to the side lanes. You know, Jace notably is still unbanned, so if they wanted to look for something like that, Riven would have been another option that TL has now banned away. So I do think that with the Tahm Kench ban, you're tipping your hand a bit in that you either want some sort of engaged support that Tahm Kench would protect you from, or you're playing the side lanes. So we'll see what Team Liquid is really going to infer from that.
And there's the Jace ban. Good read there from Ezreal, as that one will be taken off the board as well. That just leaves TL with one more ban here in this draft before they pass the pick over to Dignitas. So we see how they want to finish off their comp, or at least one of the last 2 picks they'll need to take here.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to throw another ban towards to top lane. You know, I do think that with the Jace getting banned out, Viper may be looking to go more heavily towards that top lane. Kennen, another pick here that Viper has favored in the past. He has played it in Academy. I don't actually think he's brought it out yet. He hasn't brought it out at all in the LCS, so this is more a nod to his performance in Academy on that pick. But quite a bit of top lane attention here, and they will either have to show us their top laner, you know, kind of confirm that it is going to be a jungle Sett, or maybe go towards support. Renekton is more of just kind of like the generic, this is a pretty good pick. It does allow you to set up well for ganks. This confirms that it is Sett, and it's also them saving aphromooo's pick here for last. So they are going to try to pick to get an advantageous bot lane, you would expect, whether that's aphromoo going towards a range support, which is becoming, you know, pretty popular these days. A lot more enchanters are in the meta. Things like Bard are pretty good, and notably, Spellthief did get buffed to have a lot more mana regen on 10-15. The base mana regen, you know, went up to 50% from 25, trying to encourage more people to go towards that instead of just playing Relic Shield, as pretty much everyone was. But Impact grabbing Shen here, I think, is really strong. Shen is honestly a totally fine matchup into the Renekton. It's pretty difficult for Renekton to absolutely run over this matchup, and once you get up towards Sunfire Cave, Shen is going to become, you know, very sturdy in this and allow TL to play aggressively through the LeBlanc. You can set up for 1-3-1. Have Jensen out from the side lane or looking for picks and dives down towards the bottom lane. Shen is going to be there with the ultimate to actually back him up and to allow Jensen to get more aggressive. As this does really feel like a draft that they either want to move Jensen out of mid lane and dive bot, or just generally play around Jensen.
Yeah, and the Braum actually the selection after seemingly much consideration for CoreJJ, but that is the pick he'll go for here. Calm has also been very popular as far as enchanters go, but Rakan instead here for aphromoo, who we've heard many times. Everyone loves to see him on the playmakers, and there's good reason for that. Both these supports are actually extremely good when they're on more proactive support, so despite their skill on other classes of support as well, they have been a lot of the driving force for both these teams getting work done, especially in the mid game. So love to see this kind of matchup here, especially if they're both going to bring Ignite to the table.
Yeah, it is very interesting to see aphromoo actually going towards the Rakan. I've got to say I'm a little bit surprised. I do think that, you know, there's pretty evasive carries here. It's not necessarily going to be a guaranteed engage on the Ezreal or the LeBlanc. You know, maybe just feeling like they need that hard engage to really be able to get up on top of them, and then feeling like they can layer crowd control thereafter. They are really drafting pretty heavily for a bit of a dive comp here. You have Renekton and Sett. They're going to be looking for flanks. You send in that Rakan to actually knock up and apply plasma for the Kai'Sa, who can then follow up and create this sort of, you know, full-on dive. It is going to make their lane, I think, pretty weak, though. Kai'Sa Rakan, not exactly a strong 2v2, and it does mean that, you know, they don't really have much appeal either, actually, for the Kai'Sa, who could potentially be in some trouble come teamfight time.
Yep, especially if LeBlanc is maybe going to get out of hand here. Jensen, as you said, has been playing a lot of control mages this year, but particularly this split. LeBlanc is a champion that can get a lot of leverage against Azir, but you tend to need your jungler to come and assist you in that pressure. So Broxah has been much more defensive than I was expecting him to. This is a jungler that was extremely hyped, like very aggressive, known for his Lee Sin especially. Certainly has been more on utility picks, more tanky jungler champions. So even on something like the Volibear, certainly more chances with Jensen's LeBlanc to maybe open up the game and become that mid-jungle duo that at least I dreamed of Ezreal when they were paired together in the league. I
mean, that's really what everyone was talking about when Broxah first, you know, was arriving in NA in spring. Everyone's like, okay, this is signifying, you know, you no longer want to play that slower style that maybe Xmithie was bringing to the table. You're now looking to really get aggressive and slam the early 2v2 and snowball the game. And mostly what we've just gotten is Broxah warding and farming a lot. And, you know, his notable games have honestly been more for the blunders than they have been for the big carry performances. You know, him getting Flame Horizon by closer, you know, some of his kind of more questionable ganks that led to him getting punished in bad matchups. Things like that is more unfortunately what has stood out from Broxah to me. You know, he hasn't been bad, but he definitely hasn't been the dominant force that I think a lot of people, myself included, were really expecting him to be coming into Team Liquid.
Well, certainly hasn't hurt them too much. TL still looked very good so far this season. Is going to start on red here with assistance from Tactical and CoreJJ. Dardoch alone in the jungle on the same side, so they will be jungling towards opposite sides of the map. And already Impact is getting the slaps happening. As you said, Shen, surprisingly good in more matchups than you might think. And Impact knows his way around this champion.
And also, it got buffed, and it's actually a really significant buff. The passive shield is 20 higher at level 1, which is actually very, very big. And especially if you can actually get the pull-through on the Keyblade with your Q, you get the bonus attack speed as well as percentage health damage there. And the trades become very, very powerful. And generally what Shen is looking for in these types of melee matchups is to stack up, get your grasp ready for your first auto, and then look for these trades where you can potentially proc the grasp at the start and the end of that trade.
Yep, nice little trade there. Just missed the taunt, I believe, but still got in range to proc the grasp and get the pull through on the Q. Impact is just straight zoning this Croc right now on the Shen.
Yeah, I mean, the level 1 is just so strong for Shen now, with both the Q as well as the buff actually to the shield. So, you know, Viper perhaps underestimating that a bit. Not too big of a deal, though. He does have some sustain on this Renekton, so, you know, we'll be able to be in an okay spot, and it's not like he's even had his potion forced or anything like that. You know, but Shen holding his own against the Renekton is just extremely valuable because this is a champion that plays so well into the mid and late game. The ultimate has so much use when you are playing a champion that wants to go heavily through the side lane like LeBlanc. And also just the parry zone is so incredibly powerful when you have a lot of champions that, you know, are fairly auto attack based.
Mid lane already, Fenix going to be forced to flash, the chain's going to land, the stun's going to go in, and that's first blood! We asked for it and we received. Jensen's going to nab it.
Nicely done by Jensen. A lot of patience there shown by him to actually hold onto the chains, you know, while Fenix was in those minions, and then until he flashed out, he lands the chains, and that was always going to secure that kill. Broxah and Jensen pairing up for an early gank onto Fenix, and not only did they kill him, they got his flash too, which means he's going to be a lot more vulnerable. And I'm not sure if he actually just didn't have a soldier available, you know, to kind of jump backwards, or if he had already used that and we missed that. But either way, surprising that gank actually worked so well, despite Fenix blowing his flash.
Yeah, TP'd back, so Fenix will maintain some initiative here in the lane, but is obviously going to feel pretty unsafe, especially if a regank is possible. Impact dashing out of the way of Viper, suspects that Dardoch is here, and we can see that he certainly is. Yep. So gets the pull through there, procs the grasp, and Dardoch is maybe thinking about sticking around, but the wave is not pushing in the right direction. He's going to sneak into this top rush instead.
But with how big the wave is, they could actually potentially dive him. So that's kind of the danger here now is, you know, are they going to dive? But really what Dardoch wanted to do is just make sure that Viper could actually safely push out. They didn't know where Broxah was, so this gives him the cover to do that. And we did get to see kind of this little mini-game showcase between those two champions. You know, when Viper jumps forward as the Shen, you are trying to predict when Renekton is going to use his stun. And you're going to try to use your parry zone to actually, you know, stop that stun from coming through, because it can actually block it and use the cooldown. But Viper held on to it, and then that is why you see Impact then having to taunt backwards to escape from the stun that is going to come out as soon as that parry zone does end. So it's a lot of prediction and anticipation on when your opponent is going to use the parry zone, when your opponent is going to use the stun. And whoever comes out on top in that little guessing game often is going to be who wins the trades.
Broxah back here again. I've seen this play already, haven't I? Dardoch also here though, so it's going to be a 2v2 instead. Jensen lining it up. They know though, Electrocute procced, and Broxah immediately going to run out. So Dardoch forced to come back in pretty quickly, but no one really takes too much damage on either side.
Yeah, nicely done by Dardoch. Right place, right time, twice in a row, kind of just guiding in his solo laner's waves. But because he has spent time, you know, shadowing his laners, Broxah was actually just farming during a lot of that time. And you can see that Broxah not only has the potential gank that he did pull off mid lane, you know, went for another one here, but he's still up quite a bit of farm. Yes, there are more minions on the map for Dardoch to pick up, so he can close that gap a little bit, but the jungling is so much about how you actually spend your time, right? You know, is it really efficient? Are you spending too long in your ganks? Are you spending too much time farming when you need to be protecting your lanes? And thus far, Broxah is doing a much better job of actually managing that.
Yep, and in mid lane, we can see Jensen actually still hasn't based yet, so the advantage he got from that first blood hasn't even materialized, and he's still currently up 10 CS as he's looking to push this wave in and probably go home for a shop here. Phoenix will be able to play catch-up. That looks like about 10 minions to me, as Phoenix is going to go ahead and clear that out. But gold-wise, you can see Jensen actually up about 600 or 700 gold, so now that he's gone back and bought this Lost Chapter and this Dark Seal, can certainly make the lane a lot better for him. As TL also going to start this dragon as Jensen's going to TP back in to help.
Yeah, they could go for the steal, but this is way too risky for Dignitas. I don't think they should even try with Jensen actually TPing over to that. So that's really nice timing. You know, get that good base ready for Jensen. Use him to TP to actually protect that dragon take. They can see Fenix is on minions in mid lane, doesn't have his TP to respond. Shen is also 6, so that would be even more dangerous to go for.
Speaking of 6, Viper going to pop the ulti. Dominus onto Impact, trying to get the 1v1 kill. Steal hit shields. Impact getting low. But Viper not going to flash for it. Didn't have a follow-up stun, and Impact just staying firm in the lane.
Yeah, Impact there, you know, when you taunt forward and you actually don't get that parry onto the stun, as he didn't in that case, then Renekton can look for an all-in, and that's exactly what happened there. He taunts forward, you now have no escape, you don't land the parry on the stun, and Renekton can just pop the ultimate and go aggressive. So Viper taking a very nice trade there. It does cost him the ult, though. So because Impact didn't end up going down and had his potion charges, he's really not in that bad of a spot whatsoever.
Dardoch isn't 6, but aphromoo is here as well. Jensen going to go forward, but again, back to the distortion. A chain being eaten there by Fenix is bad news on that trade, and unfortunately for him, aphromoo is now going to have to show himself in mid lane, because there's no way they're ganking this LeBlanc right now.
And the sad part about it is when your mid laner is losing like this and isn't in a matchup where you can actually go for a lot of ganks yourself, because LeBlanc is so evasive, Dardoch is having to spend all this time around mid lane just to protect Fenix from a potential gank. Not even really for an opportunity to get a kill themselves. You know, it's a lot of an investment there for not that much reward, because the reward is just your mid laner not dying. He's still losing. He's still down a lot of farm. But he's based on a non-cannon wave, so he's going to lose all of those minions to the turret very likely, and you know, be down almost 20 CS after this blue buff goes to Jensen.
Yeah, I actually love the choice Jensen made there. He held the wave, which he's been doing the whole time, just so he can open up space to harass this Azir. Because Fenix now has his flashback up, but he knows he didn't have TP. But as soon as he sees him leave, he just insta-ults the wave with the upgraded distortion, clears it, and then denies all those farm off. So Jensen, it's funny that we almost complained about man, Broxah's not the player we've been. Jensen's been so much more controlled and more defensive as a player, but you know, wanted a bit more vintage play from these two, and certainly Jensen's playing a little bit more like his old self this game.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Jensen has been incredible this whole split. You know?
Correct.
I'm definitely not trying to say that Jensen was bad by any means. He's just been favoring the control mages. Even on those control mages, he has been very lane dominant. You know, more for me, it was not even that Broxah is playing bad, but just that Broxah is playing very different than what I was expecting, you know, because I was expecting kind of the crazy early game guy who was going to snowball, as he did a lot on Fnatic, you know, was really known for being effective with their early game. And we got more of kind of that control style warding, playing for objectives, and it's been very effective for TL because they do have great late game carries. And, you know, I think that's kind of more the style that they're comfortable with. That's the style that they won really all their championships with, was playing for mid and late game team fights and snowballing objectives. So it's more the kind of tried and true style that they know.
Broxah going to continue finding advantages here for TL. They're up almost 2,000 gold as the Rift Child's going to be taken there by Broxah. I have a suspicious feeling that turret plates are going to head Jensen's way in just a few minutes, but we'll have to see as Fenix continuing to get harassed here by this LeBlanc. You can see the CS difference. Now this is starting to really hurt. That's 25 between the two mid laners right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. And the fact that Jensen has, you know, that early Lost Chapter is better, generally speaking, the earlier you get it because of that passive. You get all the mana back every time you level up, and obviously early in the game, you're leveling up more often. So it pretty much means you can always just spam out spells non-stop. And it's always going to feel, honestly, extra bad. It feels terrible anytime you miss cannon, but it feels even worse when you're already behind, as Fenix, you know, missed an uncontested cannon there to the tower. So he's set pretty back. You know, Jensen is going to have his Luden's buy very early on. You know, he already has the components plus the Sork boots, and Fenix is kind of set on more of this defensive path with just a lot of these early game laning items because he didn't have enough gold to really go for a big piece.
This seems very dangerous for Fenix. Jensen doesn't know where the jungler is, so he's going to go in now, looking for the chain, doesn't find it, just out of range as he goes back to his distortion. Other than that, though, mid-jungle certainly looking good for TL right now. It feels like that's where the bulk of their advantage is currently rested. Otherwise, bottom lane going fine for Dig. I think Tactical and Johnsun have mostly just been trading farm. And same in the top lane, just been trading farm there as Impact and Viper. Probably more concerned about their impact in the upcoming team fights as Dragon is spawning in 20 seconds. Jensen continuing to harass this Azir though, despite the blue buff for Fenix. He cannot shirk the LeBlanc from getting on top of him. As Dardoch, ooh, got a chilling spite. Nimbus cloak trade.
Yeah, just the chilling spike goes down for Broxah, so Dardoch just uses his to back it up. There it is. The stun is used after that parry zone, so Viper just popping ult, trying to get aggressive, but wasn't sure if he could actually chase into that river. Didn't necessarily know where some of those TL members were. Viper's just trying to get this pushed out because I think he may have Cleaver gold ready. Could be looking to go for a reset, but doesn't feel like they're actually in a position to challenge the dragon whatsoever. So Dignitas is going to be sitting back and looking to scale once again. And I will say that in the games recently where Dignitas has looked bad, it's often games like this where they just don't contest anything and then they eventually lose. You know, they were really highly criticized for the Kog'Maw game. You know, that was a game that I cast and was really disappointed watching them, how they were kind of just willing to give up everything. It's not at that point yet, but it is starting to feel like it a little bit. You know, they've given up 2 uncontested dragons. They've given up the Rift Herald. Yes, you have really good scaling with the Azir and the Kai'Sa, but if you lose full control of the map, you start getting too far down in gold and objectives that your scaling doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, because you just can't find any position to find a fight. As Broxah going to go down bottom lane. I was wrong about the plate collection, but it is going to happen still. Break out the dinner set as Broxah going to chain the Herald there into the bottom lane and look to knock it down. It's getting close.
It's gone. Pretty much. I mean, it's going to be low enough, I think. It's about 2.5. Oh, not quite.
Good enough, we'll call it there. As Fuji's going to push the wave in. Hey, they still got the gold. That's all the tactical cares about, as Broxah is going to go back to base after picking up the Cloud Drake and donating some money to the bottom half of the map using that Herald. Good times all around on TL right now, feeling very comfy in this sort of spot.
They are for sure. I will say that that again, you know, Johnsun and aphromoo have laned pretty well. You know, both these lanes are honestly fairly weak. But anytime I think you're playing Kai'Sa and you are up in farm in lane, you are feeling pretty damn happy. You know, it is 11 CS, so not insignificant. You know, some of that will even out here, but they've had the same amount of minions to farm, and he's almost up 2 waves, so pretty well done there by Johnsun and aphromoo. And we'll see exactly how he can perform, you know, going forward, because I think a lot of the pressure is going to be on him. Fenix has been targeted very heavily, so Fenix is actually pretty far behind the curve as to where he would want to be at this point. And that means that Johnson's going to have to do some more of this heavy lifting. And he's already stacking up the Roman mana. He's working towards that Rage Blade. And on those 2 items, he is going to be very strong. But Tactical will get to his 2 items faster. He has the Cull that can still cash out. And that's going to put him, you know, at a really, really strong point in the game.
Has finished the Manamune now. They're just waiting to stack up for the transform. Impact and Viper continuing to duel here in the top lane, but with the Tiamat and the Jarom's Fist, Impact is just fine navigating these matchups. As there we go. That's the work that Broxah did earlier with the Rift Herald. As Tactical will pick up the first tower gold for himself, just missing that final plate, but not a big deal here for TL as they look to set up once again Vision deep into the enemy blue side jungle.
Yeah, the gold is really getting concerning for me now. You know, I do think because Dignitas, you know, is kind of giving up a lot. They're starting to bleed out quite a bit of gold now. The Rift Herald's cashed in. 4K this early, this really is just starting to feel like that game where they played Kog'Maw, kind of did nothing the whole game and then lost, as we're going to watch Viper die up here.
Yep, tower dive incoming. Does have his flash, pops the ulti as well. Jensen going to miss the first distort, but the backup one is more than enough as Dardoch going to chase up here, but nothing to really play for. Just slaps him in the face and watches TL hit recall.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting a bit rough
yeah.
for Dignitas. You know, this was the game that they played against the Golden Guardians, right? Where they went Cog Lulu. And they had, you know, this losing lane on the top side and whatnot. As we have a TP coming in here from Impact, we'll see if he can actually outplay the ultimate from Johnsun.
It's a solo play from Impact. You already forced out the heal. Oh, Johnsun gets out.
Yeah, well done by Johnsun. Does escape, so TP down for Impact, but Impact still has the Shen ultimate, so they can continue to make these plays happen cross-map. 5,000 gold at 15 minutes, and you have to fight for the next objectives. It's not like you took the early game dragons and then can kind of chill a little bit while you get your scaling advantage. Like, I just don't see how they could ever possibly win the next dragon fight, and then you're at soul point, and it's just the Golden Guardians game all over again, where you do nothing the whole game, can't contest, and the game's over before you ever actually fight. And that's exactly where it feels like we're heading in this Dignitas game, unfortunately for them once again.
Yep, certainly tricky, but we'll look at Dardoch and aphromoo to get things going, because the pick is certainly a way that you can find yourselves a team fight win, because it's much easier to win 5v4 than it is 5v5 in this kind of situation.
That is true. But look at the items on mid and bot, right? Like, that's the problem, is it's like, sweet, you're going for these engages. You don't even have your first item completion for Fenix. The 2 items has already come through for Ezreal. Yes, it is a cheaper build, so it's always going to be faster, but you're down 5,000 gold, and now you're going to give up another Rift Herald. Both the outers are already down in mid and bot. The top outer is undefended, so that's probably dead here too. Like, they're just not contesting anything. You just don't win the game by playing like this, and it's honestly kind of shocking to watch Dignitas do it after they did it last week and lost. Yes, they are set up around that dragon, but Jensen's going to get this for free, has his teleport, so he can join. And you're down 6,000 gold, essentially, here. How do you actually propose you're going to win the team fight?
Oh, perhaps we'll find out. TL are going to move in onto the objective.
Give it up.
Yeah, looks like with the recoil timings we can see. Oh, Johnsun already poked out as well by Ezreal. That is rough times in mid lane.
Yeah. This game is over. Unlucky for Dignitas here. This is the same thing. It's a repeat of last week, unfortunately.
Ooh, solo kill?
Yeah, maybe.
Looking like one. Chain lands. Electrocutes. Oh, Jensen! He's so good at League of Legends. Take it all back. Fenix lives. Nice flash.
Yeah, and Jensen actually flashed there too. Bit of miscommunication because Impact was coming in, so he could have actually stayed forward and got that kill. Either way, they took down the mid lane tier 2. They got the 3rd dragon. They're stealing away the red buff. Dignitas has really given up any chance, I think, that they had of kind of taking this game. You know, they're now dependent upon TL misplays. You know, they can no longer rely on their own good play, I think, to win this game. I think you're simply too far behind this early.
And again,
they put themselves in this spot.
Yeah, and again, TL, I think one of their biggest strengths as a team, this has been true across iterations of this 4-time winning championship team, is that their consistency is very difficult to replicate. This is a team that, yes, while they might play, you know, a little too slowly for some people's taste, myself included, because I love high-octane, overly bloody League of Legends, because honestly that's what I was raised on. But TL are just so good at not giving away advantages, especially when they're ahead. I would guess, like, if you look at the lifetime of teams that have played in the LCS, that TL's like rate of converting their leads would be some absurd number, because they're just so methodical and clean about how they approach this kind of situation. And it's even harder with this comp because you're getting split by Shen and LeBlanc, you're already behind, and then either of those champions can join for any of the engages that might break out across the map, and you have no map control, of course, because you don't have a tower taking it. It is just, like, it is challenging.
I mean, they're getting perfect games.
Yes, that's true,
like,
actually.
This is
now that you mention it,
it's just really sad to watch. Dignitas does have some really good games, and then they have games like this where I'm just like, I don't honestly couldn't say what their thought process is on how they're going to win this game, because I don't actually believe that there is one. To me, when I watch a game like this just reeks of indecision. This reeks of not being able to actually decide on a path forward in the game. So you're all kind of just arguing on what to do, and nothing gets decided, right? Because that's how you end up in a situation where you're down almost 7,000 gold, you're getting perfect gamed at 20 minutes, and you haven't even tried to play yet. It's not as though they've tried a lot of stuff and it's failed. They, you know, are just giving everything to TL. And to your whole point about, you know, TL being one of the best teams ever and actually closing out games with the lead, I agree, which makes this strategy even worse against TL, right? You're putting them completely in their comfort zone. So it's just kind of bewildering to watch Dignitas play it out like this. You know, you're at Soul Point. You have lost 5 towers. You have 0 map control. Like, their furthest ward is not even really all the way in their jungle. It's in the brush outside their base. That's the extent of their vision. How are you ever going to be able to move to even contest the next dragon without just inting? Like, and if it feels like the next fight is just them walking to Soul, getting aced, and then that's it.
I mean, like, that last Vision Ward is also under threat of being killed as well. TL are closing in on Dignitas here, because CoreJJ is going to spot Dardoch there with the Winter's Bite. Impact Shen also, I mean, we could talk at length about how good Broxah and Jensen have been this game in opening up this lead, but Shen being back in the meta is like music to Impact's ears, I'm sure. He's mastery on this champion, and its synergy with the style of League of Legends that TL want to play is just like a match made in heaven. Like, they already want to play this kind of game where they can just very methodically close it out and split the map. And Impact, like, when Shen is good in the meta, can at least go even in most of the lanes he's in. And he's just so good with playing with his trading and utility. Like, so this is a pick that I will start watching now for TL, because he already played it once before the buff happened. He was the only other player besides FLICKR that played it before this patch 10.15. And it's one of those things where when I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot Impact could play that champion. That seems problematic.
That game. He went 7-0, and it was that game against CLG where he absolutely ran over Deus, I believe, on his substitution debut. I just think Impact is great on champions where it was against Ornn, I'm pretty sure. Oh, okay. But he's great on champions where he doesn't have a lot of pressure in the early game, you know, where he can play side lanes. He's really good at his map play. That's always been something where he really excels. It's a reason why he's great on GP. It's a reason why he's great on Shen, because he doesn't have to dominate early to have an incredible amount of use for the team later on, right? He can play a matchup even. He can withstand pressure. He can then take control of the side lanes, and he has such a good understanding of where to be on the map and how to exert a lead, how to, you know, circumvent the opponent's advantages. We do have Dignitas at least setting up now for this dragon. There is also the option for TL of actually just saying, all right, you have to go to the dragon or we get soul, and then just giving up one dragon and taking Baron. So, you know, that gets risky now too, because we are post 20 minutes. Dignitas has kind of shown us that this is where they're going to make their stand, and this is going to be the make or break fight. They are down massively, but if they lose this fight, the game is absolutely, completely over.
Yeah, I mean, this play is forced, but Dig know that this is where they have to try and make a play. Broxah going to be targeted there by Dardoch, but Dardoch probably doesn't want to ulti the Volibear right now. Needs to get towards the pit, though, because there will be a contest for this dragon. Aphro going to pop the ulti, finds the charm onto 2. They'll dive in the backside there, but CoreJJ going to disengage with the ulti, and Dignitas must turn tail and run. Impact, ulti's in, finds the taunt. Tactical is going to take down Fenix, and this is going to be an absolute slaughter as they'll Impact chasing down Johnsun. CoreJJ slays Dardoch, Renekton dies, Aphro dies as Impact lands a max range taunt and make it 4 kills for TL as they charge towards Dig's Nexus.
All right, Dignitas, time to get out the game. You've lost. They are going to get perfect gamed here, I think, unless TL decides that they want to, you know, give them some pity kills by the Nexus or something. But this is Soul. You know, that was your last stand. A 0-for-4 fight where you give up the Soul and you're probably going to lose some towers around here as well.
Oh, that's gross. Jensen's in there. Impact with the taunt to set it all up. And the emotes fly wild as that is the delayed ace for Team Liquid.
I'm just so disappointed, honestly, in Dignitas. I was disappointed with their last game where they played like this. I'm even more disappointed by this one. Dignitas has got to wake up. This is a team that has a chance to make playoffs, has a chance to catch someone like CLG. You are not going to do it playing League of Legends like this, because this is just awful.
And it's tough to blame you for feeling that way, but I think we can at least celebrate how good Team Liquid have looked this game. It was the second perfect game of the split, as they're going to take Baron as well, just because, you know, might as well get your bonus prize at the end of it all. TL just going to take everything off the map. Dig, again, must find a multitude of miracles at this point in their base.
I mean, at this point, you're hoping for some disconnects. I think that's the strategy. Here it is. I mean, Aphro finds a decent engage here. Does catch Tactical. The Charm, you know, did land, but Tactical did buffer his E, and then the Flash plus the Shen ultimate. It's not as though he was very close to actually going down. Tactical still remains at pretty much full health. And this is just the power of the gold lead. You're so enormously behind, despite the fact, you know, that stun lands on Tactical, both from Viper and Dardoch. You know, he's stacked on by the melee, but he's tanky enough at this point that it just doesn't matter. He was never really under threat, so TL, they get engaged on, they win the fight, and they are looking to close out this perfect game. Nearly 13,000 gold ahead here now at 25 minutes. They have that Mountain Soul as well.
All right, Impact.
The damage he
is he going to be the only one to give a kill over? Taunts onto Fenix. The TP's coming in. Jensen wants to save his buddy as the rest of TL are reinforcing. This looks awfully tricky for Dig.
They got him to 90%. Let's go.
Jensen's going to take somebody out here, I feel like. There's the Stormbringer. Going to disable the Sun Turret. Dardoch gets a face breaker there. And now going to dunk them back into the team fight. But Tactical's cut off Viper. Jensen is just destroying people with his Assortionists. Broxah is low. There's the double kill out of the LeBlanc. Going to make it a few more. That's a quadra kill. And Tactical, he steals the Penta as TL find back-to-back aces to end the game.
Scumbag Tactical takes away the Penta, but TL crushed this one start to finish. A flawless game as they push in, and they will complete the perfect game here over Dignitas. Absolute domination. Dignitas never stood a chance.
The second of the season, 25 stacks in Jensen's book, and another victory for Team Liquid as they will take sole possession of first place for now, because this Nexus is gone. Don't do it. Don't do it to me. Don't throw your life into the fountain. Don't throw the game away! Impact! Oh!
Oh, no.
How dare you!
I love how the player cams is sticking on Impact there, too. Oh, man, that's funny. All right, well.
All right, so only one perfect game this season. At least we could take that away.
Yep, they did get that. So they get the moral victory. Fenix scooping Impact into the fountain there. At least they don't get perfect gamed, I guess. But Dignitas have got to go back to the drawing board. I mean, we saw the kind of little excerpt in the countdown from aphromoo, from the Dignitas content, talking about how hard they're working, how they're going for 9 scrim blocks, in these final weeks, that they are, really grinding to show how good they are, that they feel that they're better than the teams that are around them in the standings. But this just is not it. You need to be more decisive. If you're playing League of Legends professionally, you have got to try to make your stand. You can't just play to not lose, and that is exactly what we saw here from Dignitas, where every fight that it felt like, Team Liquid was pushing for a tower, pushing for a dragon, pushing for anything, Dignitas just says, oh, well, we don't have the perfect position. We have to back off. The perfect position is not going to show itself when you don't challenge anything, because you'll fall so far behind in gold that now it just doesn't exist ever. Even with a great engage from aphromoo on a tactical, you still get essentially aced in that final fight where they finally took one. So Dignitas just never pulling the trigger and do get rightfully punished here with the loss.
Yep, and I think it's frustrating because we have seen much better out of Dignitas before. So a tough loss to swallow, certainly, but Team Liquid still looking good here. But don't go too far, because on the other side of the break, we'll hear from Jensen. So see you in just a few short minutes.
Welcome back to the Verizon postgame interview. I am joined by Liquid's Jensen after they take down Dignitas. Jensen, we spoke to you back in week 5, and overall it's just been a really good split for you, kind of quietly dominating mid lane. What for you has changed, if anything? Are you feeling better about your play? It just seems really good.
I don't know. I just feel like we're playing better as a team. We're more connected. So I think we just, I'm just going to look better naturally, like if we play better as a team. And I think, at least today we had really good team cohesion and, yeah, took the dub.
Heck yeah. So if you were to reflect kind of on this split over your gameplay, where do you think you've advanced to kind of find the success?
I don't know. I'd say like biggest improvement for me personally is probably just, being more connected as a team. Like I think, if I get an advantage, I think now I'm better at like snowballing it or utilizing it with my teammates' help. And yeah, I think that's like the biggest change for me personally is just utilizing my teammates and snowballing better that way.
I was going to say we saw that today with Tactical stealing your Penta, so everybody's really there helping out all the time as much as they can. It was awesome to see you. I'm sure the fans were happy to see you back on LeBlanc and kind of crushing faces too, and the old Jensen coming out, they were saying. Talking about playoffs now, the 1-2 spot is kind of within the reach, probably something that's going to happen for Team Liquid. Is this something that you'd be happy to get? Do you want to keep playing through? Are you happy to kind of have the week off if it does come?
I think with the new format for summer, I think it's really important to get first if you can, just with how the new seeding and everything works. So getting the week off is a nice bonus, I guess. But honestly, I like playing, so I would be happy with playing that extra week as well. But getting to scout your opponents and just having more time to prep is not a bad thing either. But yeah, I mean, personally, I would be fine either way. But just in terms of seeding and stuff, like getting first in the regular season is definitely important for summer.
Right on. And that's my final question coming up is kind of practice for playoffs, prepping with the position you have right now and the schedule you're looking at with still preparing for your opponents. Is it time to lock down for playoffs? Is practice best of 5s? What's going on for the team right now as you guys prepare?
Honestly, I'm not sure if we're changing anything up too much. Maybe I'll find out in the next few weeks, but I think we're just going to keep, doing the same thing and just working on the stuff we've been working on and just try to prepare as many different styles as we can for playoffs so we can be, a bit more like versatile or flexible team because we have been sticking to a lot of the same picks most of the season. So I think we're just going to try out some more picks now that we're approaching playoffs.
Awesome. Jensen, thank you so much for the insight and thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to take a moment, throw it back to the State Farm analyst desk so they can break that one down.
Thank you, Riv, and thank you, Jensen. Lots of props he's dishing out to the rest of his team, but I don't know. If I were him, I'd have some choice words, not just for Tactical for stealing the Penta, but Impact for coming in and ruining the chances at a perfect game for Team Liquid. So close, probably. They were so close.
Yeah, I'm pretty upset with
Those
Impact.
are rare.
I don't know why he did that. Because I thought Team Liquid had a pretty decent game plan coming into it. Yeah, we always talk about Dignitas' bot lane with big playmakers, so TL pretty much neutralized them. They banned the Kate, they banned the Ashe, and they picked the Ezreal. So it was very kind of like non-interactive bot lane. There really wasn't much that Johnsun and aphromoo could really do in this lane. It's just kind of farming and it can scale well. And then they also banned the Graves, so yeah, you have Dardoch who doesn't really get to play a big carry. The one criticism I do have is, yeah, they left the Azir for Fenix, and before this game, all right, that was his best champ by far, right? So after this game, maybe you'll say, okay, maybe we can leave up Azir, but realistically, it's like, other than that, it was a pretty good game. I did like the fact that the direction Broxah took in the early game was to gank mid because you have such a farming top, farming bot, and then you have a LeBlanc mid. So I did think that Team Liquid had a really good plan coming into today.
I really like the Shen as well because I think what happened to Dig where they did nothing this game is that you get paralyzed when you're up against a Shen thinking, I don't have playmaking tools if I have to keep in mind that there's a Shen that's going to port in every single time. So I think that that's what also slowed them down. There were opportunities. I think they could maybe go for tower dives in the bottom lane, but Team Liquid drafted so safely to make sure that there is no playmaking available that Dignitas just said, well, all right, I guess there's no place to be made. And
yeah, I was going to say, on the flip side, at least TL made a play or two to keep the game, you know, from being totally deathless. Jensen, once again, having a good game after having a bit of an off week last week. They keyed off him for the first kill. His LeBlanc is absolutely great and just had really good setup in order to get this kill. A little bit of a mistake there by Fenix. They were able to punish it super well. And then from there, to Prawley's point, it is really scary to try and attack this LeBlanc. The Shen can always jump in with the LeBlanc, and then they even start bringing people up to Shen to help break him out as well.
And this is just such a, this spells doom for a team. Like if they're diving the Shen lane, you can't attack anything else because like, oh, let's go attack mid. Well, Shen can still ult, so it's like you don't even have a big numbers advantage if the Shen team is diving the top lane. So yeah, this is Dignitas like trying to fight back, but at this point they're so far behind in gold, and their team comp like just doesn't work that well when it's just a full 5v5 when you're this far behind. Because yeah, you saw the engage went off and there's like no damage. Team Liquid, if you see the HP bar on the very bottom, like they're still 75%. I watched Tactical use his Arcane Shift into the Renekton when he was already on top of the Renekton because he had Death's Dance, he had Iceborne Gauntlet, so he's like, yeah, hit me. I'm the tanky one, not you anymore.
I mean, I'm just still so disappointed in Dig, if I'm being honest. Like, this is like what their new identity seems to be, is like kind of do nothing and then kind of lose the game. It happened versus, you know, TSM. It happened versus, I forget which game it was. They had another slew game. I think it was Golden Guardians, maybe. Like,
yeah, that's
a Lulu game.
Yep. In recent weeks, this is like what Dig's identity has seems like it's become again after that hot 2-0 week. I'm totally off the train.
Yeah, I believe that the bot lane in that game had ended with 0 participation in anything too. So you want to see that proactivity from a team when they're trying to make the drive for playoffs. And if we're looking over at the Team Liquid side, who are trying to make the running of being the #1 team, a lot of people look at it as an opportunity for Jensen to step up. And clearly today he did in this game.
I tell you, giving him the LeBlanc versus Azir matchup, I saw it coming when the Azir wasn't banned. It was an opportunity, I think, for Team Liquid, for Dignitas to change up their bans and maybe target Jensen with it. But even though Jensen had a really good game, and even though Team Liquid did so well, the fact that Dignitas did absolutely nothing, they offered no resistance whatsoever, still makes me have doubt in the back of my mind of how good Team Liquid is, because there was no opponent. Like, how are you supposed to know who they played against? What did they do?
They're like a super fluid. There's no resistance. There's no just goes straight across.
But at the same time, we're looking at what didn't go well for Dignitas. But for Team Liquid, we have to look at the fact that they are a team we're looking to have these performances against those that are still struggling to make their way into playoffs. Probably, if we're looking at what this means going into the remainder of the schedule for Team Liquid, considering the strength of it as well, what do you think that we're going to make of their final performances in the regular season?
I think they're going to do really well. I mean, even in that game, that was such a fast win. And if you looked around like the 20-minute mark, they took almost all the tier 2s like without taking Baron. So this wasn't a Team Liquid like low kill, like we're just going to wait for Dragon Soul or something. Like, no, they were continually pushing, making plays. So I did really like this kind of form of Team Liquid where it wasn't just like we're going to farm you out. It's like, no, they actually were moving around the map pretty well. They had like good rotations and stuff like that. So I did like this version of Team Liquid. And this is kind of what I want the top teams to be doing to the bottom teams. Like, I don't want these, you know, close, scrappy games. Like, yeah, you get your advantage because you're a good team. You have a good early game. And I want you to just destroy the macro. Take all their turrets. And other than Impact, it was a perfect game.
It is a wonderful way for Team Liquid to set the tone for the rest of their remaining games in the regular season. But we do have other teams that are competing to do the same. We're stepping away. And when we return, we'll have Evil Geniuses versus TSM taken to the Rift.
I think I wanted super conductive, not super.
Many of us are working from home and adjusting to new coworkers. Coworkers who borrow supplies and always interrupt meetings. A gift can help. And when you use your MasterCard, you have security benefits that keep you protected, so your purchase ends up in the right hands or mouth. And your staff can start something priceless.